Okay, welcome back to the RBS Bottomline Studio. And today we have Romāns Galaiko, and he will share about his, let's say, experience, and we'll talk about space for creativity in business, right? So, Romāns, I want you to talk about yourself. So basically, how would you describe yourself in a few sentences?
Right, yeah. I would start with how I always present myself in a professional field, that I would like to think that I'm this mix of both creativity and analytical mind, because usually it goes like, artists go super deep into creativity and into design fields, or these analytical minds who go into finance and hardcore business. But I would like to think that I have found myself a place in this marketing field where I'm able to express these both sides of my existence. Let's call it that way.
The silver lining.
That's my short introduction.
Like you mentioned, or actually Romāns was in the Open Doors Day presenting a presentation as well, which was a really good one. And you describe yourself as the creative strategist. And yeah, actually, I'd like to say what Dāvis Indriksons was actually saying about you and how she would describe you. Oh, by the way, like you can see this on camera. This is a nail, which is really black. This is like painfully obvious. I slammed it into a door. Yeah, just if you're wondering. But yeah, so basically, Dāvis Indriksons said about you. If I had to choose one word to describe Romāns, it seems quite impossible, since he is a very versatile and creative person. But the first one would be fun. We had both fun during study process and school's daily life, as well as during parties. Throughout our studies, he made the process seem easy and fun. Conversations with Romāns were thought stimulating, and his ideas quite inspired me. Romāns was and still is well taking into account his colleagues' comments. So this is also what your colleagues are saying. The definition of fun, as he is the soul of the party. So,
yeah, thank you, Dan.
People like you. Explain what you're doing right now in your career. What are your responsibilities? Where are you working?
All right. Yeah. So for the past 1 year, I have landed myself at Printful, which is a fulfillment and shipping company. And I'm in marketing. My official title is marketing project manager, and the main thing that I do care about on an everyday basis, and how I wake up every morning is basically generating demand for our brand, and in the names so that we acquire these new customers who will sell further apparel, and we will fulfill them as a white label company.
Okay.
It's gotten a bit serious because I'm coming more from a retail background where I used to sell, FMCG goods like toys or hot dogs and coffee. But now I'm in this B2B space where I have to sell to customers who are on a yearly basis generating millions in revenue.
What were some of those projects? Because in your presentation previously you mentioned about the Circle K, the lotteries. So tell about your projects.
Yes, that's one stop in my career where I have been. Yeah, so quite some time ago I worked at Circle K Latvia, basically in a marketing department, where my main goal was to drive this traffic to site, to our fuel stations, and I think those campaigns and activities are quite popular in Latvia because the engagement is super high, and the projects that I manage were the lotteries like Scratch and Win and Spin and Win, which at least I have known those lotteries since my high school years, and it was always fun to get a free hot dog. But now I got in this back end, and now I see like the systems that are built under that, the negotiations that have been there with our vendors to supply us these wins that people are winning, and because of that, they are redeeming them at the stations and bringing us revenue.
Wow. So the thing that a lot of us use, you know exactly how it works.
Yep.
That's really cool. But what else have you done in your career previously?
It's a connection and how I switched from RBS, and there's a story, as you mentioned, Don, by the way, and that was quite a lucky accident on how I got my internship. So I did my internship at Lego Group, which is probably the best known toy company in the world. So I did my 3 months there, which was mandatory for the first year students. And then I performed well enough so that they invited me later on to stay there, and that's basically how I started my career in marketing. Because at that point, just from being at RBS, I thought that I want to do business, I want to make money. But then I sort of understood that, all right, marketing is something where I can fulfill my needs and some desires, and I spent 2 years there we call it trade marketing, it's sometimes called retail marketing, but basically everything that happens in the stores, grocery stores, toy stores, and on a whole Baltic level state. So from the first day one, I had to learn how it is to work to work from Riga office, but in the same time care about Lithuanian and Estonian languages, and that every campaign is tripled, and then you have to look not only at one poster, for instance, but already at 3 posters. And the crazy stuff that happens when producer messes something up, and you end up with Estonian language and Lithuanian grocery stores. That was the life there.
Wow. And what did you do during your Riga Business School studies? What were you known for? Where did you participate, let's say?
I would consider myself quite an active student. From year one, me and my fellow course mate, we joined the student union straight away. That was, I would call it a continuation of something that I was passionate about in high school, and that it just made sense to do that at RBS as well. So at my first year, I was head of external relations.
Did that help during your career as well? Did the skills you learned there help?
Definitely. At that point, you probably cannot really understand how all of those things will hopefully connect moving forward. But there I had one of the experiences, for instance, asking banks for money to finance our dinner and a networking dinner as an event. But all of those sponsorship deals that go into the process.
Okay, and I want to ask you about leadership. What is the purpose of leaders? How do you think, and what are the qualities of leaders?
I would deconstruct it, first of all, on, let's call it surface level, on a language level. What is leadership? We have leader and we have ship. So most likely it's a person that is leading a ship. And then you can continue in building on that analogy that, ship can be a family, a relationship, an organization, sports team, random groups of people. And then you have this human being that is leading this whatever substance group of people somewhere. And I guess I would say that most likely that organization has some kind of goal, and it's in the interest of the leader to get that group of people there. But then comes in all the details, meaning that skills and characteristics of the leader. How does he or she lead this group forward? Is it from organizational behavior with this intrinsic and extrinsic motivators? yeah, and then there's so much to explore on what creates a leader. I think number one characteristic that I would mention is definitely empathy towards a person next to you, and how do you use that in order to achieve both your and your colleagues' goals.
Okay, so being a boss without, let's say, compromising other people's, let's say, feelings, something like that. Well, to a certain extent. But
Definitely, yeah.
Actually, we have a question from the audience.
All right.
So, Raivis Lucianos, I
Oh.
hope I pronounced this correctly. You know him?
Yeah.
Okay, and he asked, what is the cost you pay on a free hot dog?
Oh, all right. Rais Lucianos was a lecturer of mine at, I think, third year on financial planning or financial forecasting. I'm not super sure, but he had an interesting subject. Well, definitely that's a commercial secret, unfortunately, but obviously there is a room for some profit margins whenever we give a discount on a hot dog, and it's given away as a free prize. And well, that I guess I can explain. Obviously that we do not expect to earn that revenue on the hot dog itself. I hope that when you buy this hot dog or redeem as a free prize, that you will be also thirsty and you will buy Coca-Cola or a coffee, and hopefully you have a ride with the car and you will fuel up at that particular gas station and not competitors.
Basically upselling.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. About technology, we're also like Riga Business School is like leadership and technology. Those are, let's say, the two values. And what are, let's say, some maybe unusual or common apps that you use every day for your, let's say, either professional life or personal life that help you manage life maybe or work?
Definitely not much. So I don't know, in terms of hardware, like I don't even have a smartwatch, but one app that I use is Things app, which is basically a to-do list organizer, which visually is sort of similar to Notion, but on functional level better. And it's integrated with both of my computers and phone, and then there I have my projects that I do at job, and also some of the mini projects that I need in my everyday life. So I have, like, I'm planning even my trips in there, so that, buy a flight, and then you set it as a reminder. Next week, notification comes up, and that, hey, you have to book a flight, and then, etc. Just a simple to-do list. That's it. Otherwise, G Suite with Google Drive, and then all the basic apps. That's all I use.
Okay. It was called the
Sorry?
The first app.
Things app.
Things. Oh,
yeah.
wow, okay. I haven't heard of that.
That's you should look it up.
I probably will. But okay, time is moving, and I want to ask you a question. So, what is let's say, either a failure that you learned from, or just a learning lesson that you didn't necessarily fail, or just learn that something that was meaningful, that impacted your life in a meaningful way? What is an example of that?
I would quote at my current place at Printful, my head of marketing, Raitis, who works a lot with me. Once he said, quoting, "There's no such thing as over-communication." And I have tried to stay true to those words. Why? Because, I'm a project manager, and obviously I have always a lot of parties involved and stakeholders. And on the downside, I'm also a perfectionist, so I have to have every stage of the project fulfilled perfectly. And sometimes, at stage 3, for instance, you already see that there will be some kind of obstacles, and that's where there's no such thing as over communication comes in, that you should already, give a signal to stage 4 and stage 5 that stage 3 is behind the schedule. And it hasn't been easy for me because sometimes I try to deal with that particular thing in the moment, and forgetting that I have to get a signal forward that, hey, we have few technical problems, and we will get back to you in the time. It's also, project management is also expectation management, that if I have promised that I will bring to you, I don't know, Excel spreadsheet with filled things and lines, and I did not do that to you, and you, for instance, had to do some calculations on that, and you have promised that to your lecturer, then you will be in some kind of problem, or I don't know, the next person behind you. It's always this chain of reactions, and yeah.
So you can never over-communicate.
Yeah. Especially inside the organizations. But that's up for debate, whether you can over-communicate in external space, but internally there's no such thing as over-communication.
Let's start moving into the case study.
All right.
So the case study was Space for Creativity in Business. And the first question is, how would you define creativity? Or let's say, what does it mean to be creative, and how do you determine if you're creative and how creative you are?
First of all, a few things. Let's remove scale from how creative you are. I do not think that there's sort of scale, and about determination of, I don't know, unleashing. I would call it, what are the things that you can do in order to unleash, unhide, and just remove the shells that are built around your creativity, because there's a common concept of comparing this creativity level from adults and then kids, and considering that kids are so much more creative, and then there's even some outrageous titles like schools kill creativity. There's a popular TED Talk, which I don't think is true. I think all human beings are creative at their core. It's just that when we grow up as kids to human beings, we learn habits. We learn to, that you have to go to school to every day, that there's some kind of punctuality, that you have to organize your room, and then all of those things just clutter up your creativity, because as a kid, if you're building a sandcastle, you just dive into that project. You have no some kind of constructs that, hey, I don't know how to do that. But as an adult, you are often blocked by your own thoughts that, hey, I don't know how to do that. Why would I do that? For instance, I cannot draw, but still, you have to find courage in yourself that, hey, maybe I can somehow visually better explain ideas if I would still try and then scribble down with pencil, I think it's all about unhiding and getting into these first experiences, and never stating that, hey, I'm not creative. Just try and
So it's in all of us, but you just have to find it. You just have to unhide, have to release.
And just allow it.
Yeah, allow it.
Allow
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Allow it. And how do you allow it? How do you, let's say, peel off those peels of an onion, for example, to unleash that creativity?
One of the first things I think I try to do that, not to block it with some sort of past experiences, for instance. So with taking into account that, for instance, I have graduated business school, so I could probably work in financial world or accounting, etc. But I don't let that get into my way. For instance, in my everyday basis, where I have people from all kind of backgrounds. In our marketing department, we have people who have graduated English philology and obviously some economics and business graduates, and our head of marketing is a IT teacher. He used to teach IT in high school. So just at that point, forgetting about that you have some of these experiences that at that point are not really relevant.
Like resetting. So even though you've, let's say, had this experience, you've had like developed a skill, kind of not putting yourself in a box.
Yes, exactly, and just opening up and trying to do as many firsts as possible at that time, and that opens up you for opportunities, hopefully.
Mm. And is there some, let's say, practical ways to do it? Maybe like opening yourself up, letting your creative expression go through. Like, what are some practical ways that you can do it? Maybe watching movies.
Yes, for instance, one of the most common ones, and for every person, be it how they acknowledge it or not, is travel, for instance. And then a lot of people say, oh, I do love to travel, but I'm not sure how they ever dived into why they like travel, because what is travel? So when you travel, you move yourself geographically. That would be one thing. So if I'm not in Riga, I'm in Paris, for instance. When I'm in Paris, what changes? The architecture changes, the streets are different, people are different, therefore also culture is different, sounds are different, music is different, movies are different. And by implying different, I also imply novel, like new, and that also comes back to our human core, that we are these explorers and we just strive for new things, and that's why we are always so satisfied with travel. But then if you deconstruct that travel part, like geography, culture, music, and just bring it back to Riga, you can do it on everyday basis as well. So if you are taking one route to work, maybe another day try a different one. You will just visually see different things that you haven't noticed on everyday basis at your common route that you take. Then you said about the movies. Exactly, it's like thousands ways and how to see a visual picture, which some kind of producer has produced in his or her opinion, and you just dive into thousands of different worlds. Music, drawing, there's so many things. It just, again, about the satisfying your inner explorer and finding new visual and all kind of sensual clues.
About the traveling. Have you also, let's say, traveled alone, maybe not on a business trip, but like purposefully without, let's say, friends or family? And how was that experience like?
Yes, so I guess.
How would you compare those, let's say, when you're traveling with friends and when you're traveling with by yourself? Like, how do those compare? Maybe you're experiencing it differently.
Definitely, because when you're walking down, I don't know, London streets alone, I mean, it's inherited that if you are traveling with a group of people, that you will talk to them and then do some common experiences together. But when you travel alone, you have not even more time, but more space to look around. And I guess sometimes also solo traveling is quite reflecting, that you are with your own thoughts, and then you just experience it in a more I would not say romantic level, but somehow it's more personal when you travel alone. And I have thrown myself into different experiences. I have traveled for some events where I have just extra time to do some kind of sightseeing. I have traveled to more common places, but I have also purposefully went somewhere where I'm alone for a bigger period of time.
So you feel it more personally, all the experiences.
Yeah.
And let's bring this let's bring this creativity into practical work, based implemented, and so creative flow, right? Do you have any, let's say, routines, maybe methods of how you get into this creative flow of when you're, let's say, working, right, as a project manager, and you need to get into the creative flow, because it could be pretty difficult. What do you do?
It is. Obviously, it's a skill to bring this creativity on demand. That hey, I start work, I just perform, and that's it. A lot of people deal with that differently. One of my ways on how I deal with that, but it has sort of a negative connotation. I just try to overflow myself with projects, so that when I don't feel like doing one project, I have something in my backlog that I can return to and just do a different project. And then I think, yeah, that's one of my most simplest mechanisms how I overcome that. I just work on different. I know that at that point it's not the number one priority, and I'm not moving the needle forward, but still at some point I would have to get that to do done.
So kind of doing whatever you feel like at the moment, and
yes,
then in the long term you're like, all the projects, you eventually do them, but they're all done in a creative way. So
yes, unfortunately that's not like the best advice I could give, but I do believe in some kind of small wins, and that with these small wins building up, you just get moving forward. And hopefully that I have just developed this professional skill that I don't know if I'm coming close to a deadline with a project, that in those 30 minutes I can do enough, and that over the past 10 years I have learned enough, so that in those 30 minutes I can perform at the level I consider myself at.
And maybe let's dig even deeper, right?
All right.
Maybe there's an environment that you put yourself into. Let's say, I don't know, turning off all distractions, or putting out some music, maybe some specific kind of genres. Like, what do you do even more practically, right? So you have to do it, and what's the environment you put yourself into?
Yeah, definitely any kind of physical moving helps. If you're at the office, at your desk, there's always an option to, float around some other spaces, be it meeting rooms or your colleagues' desks. That's the most simple one, how you can change, just physically moving somewhere around.
And you're doing that, right?
Yes, definitely. Like, there's no point of forcing yourself and then just looking at the screen if you're not. And returning back to this geography, like, you never know what kind of visual clues will help you. But in terms of music, well, I'm a huge music lover. I have always my headphones next to me. But no, I would not go deeper into genres. Like, the professionals on the internet say that white noise helps whatsoever. But no, I think music makes your life fun, and you should dance when you do projects.
So you're like even physically moving, or
yes. But I think those are some of the simple, practical ways and how I overcome that.
Do you also have, let's say, a limit? You know that, okay, per day I can maybe do 3 hours of creative work, and after that it's just like pushing yourself, and not a lot of, let's say, quality work will come out.
Probably, but that's why you always facilitate on developing this professional mindset that in creative agencies, all the creative people, they just have to perform. Like, customers pushing them for a deadline, and then project managers pushing you, and tomorrow you just have to deliver that proposal and campaign that will explode the market. One thing I know that I have found about myself is that I work better in evenings. Why? I don't know, it just happens to be so. It started back in high school, continued throughout university, and sometimes I do invest time during the nights as well at my current job, because that's when, for me at least, the better ideas come. And then in the morning you just try to make sense of it. You do the meetings during the day, and then that's how you organize your day so that it better fits your needs.
And this is actually like, I'm also, let's say, struggling sometimes with this. And so you're like in the writer's block. It's sort of like a writer's block. You have to execute on something and the deadline is pretty near. And how do you, let's say, make a hard reset on yourself, like a computer, to, like, let's say you have to do something really creative, but you really can't think right now, for example. Do you have any, let's say, things you do then that actually follow through?
No practical suggestions on that. I mean, that's why people who are overall quite organized in life, they will set up pre-deadlines before the hard deadline, that they will do things in time. I have struggled with it a lot, especially in university, where during the semester you have quite a lot of deadlines. There was even a joke that for me deadlines are like suggested, and that's approximate when you should deliver. That's still sometime after you can deliver as well. But at some point it becomes that deadline, like it's not only about your grade, but at some point it becomes that it's also about money. That if you fail and campaign doesn't start on time, you don't reach your sales targets, and then you just start this chain reactions of things that will just go wrong. And it's also obviously some sort of respect towards your colleagues, your team, your managers. But if you are like self-aware of that problem, that's why you do your best to, throughout years, just collect this experience and know that even if you will perform at 70% of your capacity, that it will be good enough to deliver on the deadline, and then next project, those same 70% in nominal value will be higher and higher and higher, and your, let's call, value of your work, and let's put it in a pie chart, that those 70% from pie chart to pie chart will be just higher, because you have this experience, and that you don't always have to perform at your 100%, but if you do enough of 70, 80s, and then you just build up this value.
Okay. Let's talk about your project. So what do you think makes a marketing campaign great?
All right. Campaign, I guess, is favorite word of mine in my vocabulary. I think everything is campaign, and sometimes I have worked on solutions which should not be a campaign, but I'm like always, hey, let's advertise this, and then let's do that, and let's that. But if you look at like core of campaign, what is campaign? Campaign, in my opinion, is activity, project that has all kind of limitations. First one is definitely time, followed by budget, resources, goals, definitely goals and KPIs, space or medium, like media channel, which we'll use, because campaign can be where I'm advertising these new shoes that company has produced. But also we have presidential campaigns, where also you can see that there's time, meaning that you start a year or two before elections. There's money, resources involved, there's team behind it, and then comes the execution part. And for me, I guess it's always about setting up clear goals and by which the campaign will be measured, because it's easy to create a compelling video that looks fun, wins awards, you know, all these Cannes Lions and so on, Golden Hammers. But how does that go back to your revenue streams? Like, have you helped your business to grow, or you just had fun times with your creative agency, and there's no, and obviously you have invested a lot of money into that, to film, video, your everyday, like you work on it, I don't know, month or two. I think, yeah, it's always super important to set these goals and KPIs for these campaigns, even if you think that it's super creative thing and that it's all about awareness. Still, there have to be some kind of mechanisms in place. And how will you say that, hey, Roman, I have done a great job with this campaign because it brought this and this much sales, or this and this much traffic to, I don't know, my website or my store.
And can you think of, let's say, an example of a campaign that you saw, let's say, or either an advertisement in general, where you were just like, wow, this is brilliant?
Oh, there's so many. That's why I have curated my Instagram and LinkedIn so that I see those advertising campaigns. I will not be able, I guess, to name a particular one, but I guess sometimes the problem with those great and cool ads, which people are sharing, hey, look how cool of an ad, is that it's always more visually appealing, and then you never really know like what are the actual results behind it. I do know one, but from historical ones, I think the ad goes back to 60s or 50s. No, lying. Either way, Porsche car was advertised. It was the early Porsche 911. Maybe you know, like the poster, there's the car, and the headline was, now, do you really think that kids were, did you really dream of a Nissan or Mitsubishi when you were growing up? Implying that obviously everyone dreams of these sports cars, and that who even, when he's a small kid, grows up, oh, when I will be older, I will drive a Nissan. No, yeah, but that's one of those. But yeah,
yeah, still
no particular example at
that
this
was
point.
a good answer. Yeah, a good example. What are skills that you've noticed are like in marketing, right? This is for the people who are aspiring to be good in marketing. What are skills that you've noticed that are in demand right now, or are absolutely necessary to be good in marketing, or let's say reach really high levels and then the career ladder?
Yeah. Well, let's not look at marketing as something unattainable, that oh, that's just so special field. No, I think it starts with basics, like with being logical and organizational in your work, and yeah, I think the start is the most basic one, so that which you will most likely need at every job that you perform, be it in business, creative fields, law, or I don't know, medicine. But moving forward, in terms of project management, I guess it always helps if you have some sort of hard skills. So at least I think that that's how I bring value. So from early stages, I have, one of my tasks was always to comment on designs that are done on our campaigns and posters, which where I found my interest later on, and then I even pursued a master's degree in design. And I think that sort of helps in an everyday life of mine, because I just know that I can talk with designers on a different level. I can bring more valuable feedback, and etc. I do believe that, you know, people who have, that's for smaller companies, quite often great marketing people are also great copywriters, that they have done those thousands of posts on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and I don't know, they are working now, for instance, in communication department, and that they have just a lot of content going out, and that they can bring this valuable feedback to their team. Those are like some of the skills.
So it basically sounds like, marketing is a really, let's say, large area, first of all. But it basically entails everything. So the more of a generalist you are, the, let's say, higher chances of you being successful there also maybe.
Yes, definitely, because starting from those basic positions like copywriter, designer, or even data analyst, like there's always something for you to find in marketing, like, because for me marketing is very visual, but for some people marketing is all about words and posts and content. Then there are some people to whom it's all about data and I don't know, category growth and traffic and all these advertising things that you see behind Facebook advertising, for instance. With any of these interests, you will find your place in marketing.
And I want to talk about your, let's say, area of expertise, and let's put this in an interesting way for the viewers, right? So you're the average consumer, right? And how would the future of retail stores look like? Like, if you go inside a store, would something change, you think, in the next maybe 10, 20 years or whatever the time frame may be? How would it change? When you work in a professional field, quite often, all the time, all of these, your agencies that you work with as partners, they are inviting you to these conferences where they explain you the future of retail. And for some reason, they have been explaining this future of retail, that retail is digital for, past 10 years. For some instance, still 10 years back, future was digital, and today future is most likely digital, which is true, fine, yes. But myself, like observing and even fascinated by what stores do to us in terms of human, psychology, that I do think definitely, like, first thing, you can observe how COVID has changed how the physical retail space looks like. So COVID hit, there are measures on how many people can enter the store. If you cannot just have that many people in the store, that means your revenue is going down. Then supply chains, how those affect because of COVID and what happens in the stores. But with the digital in mind and how digital is disrupting these stores, in my opinion, stores are becoming sort of showrooms, let's call them that way, that it's a place for you to experience your brand, your company, your products, that it's not only about stocking the shelves with shoes or shirts or toys, that it's about delivering this disrupting brand experience in the store. Like Apple is probably one of the most popular examples, when you just have huge tables with products with no cash desks anywhere. They're hidden under. And then I know back at Lego we were also envisioning how would it be and striving towards that you come into store and there's just toys which you play around, and then you find this fire truck that you really like, and then your mother just buys it and the box comes from the back of the store. Or same thing, how we are like building this future with print on demand, that you come into store, you don't have to just stock these things and this apparel that most likely there's a chance that it will not sell, which the top retailers do, and how possibly print on demand is fixing that
you have this white label store where you just have pieces of clothing in white. You pick them, you fit them, and if you like it, then you come to some sort of mirror where you can change the color interactively of your sweatshirt, for instance, and you can put some kind of print on it or embroidery, and obviously the product will not be made at that exact point, but you will just order it from there and go to the next store or go towards your everyday life, and the product will come to your apartment door in 2 or 3 days.
So you might not even have to carry the bags.
Exactly, and
more convenient.
it just connects with all of this. There's a concept called walkable cities, basically where we just remove the cars, and it's also in favor of micro-mobility with all of those scooters. That just one of interest mine, that I don't have to own a car to bring my groceries or my shopping bags with clothing. I just order it, I fit it in the store, but the piece goes back to my house and I don't have to carry it with me.
Oh.
That's my sort of vision of future of retail.
That would be something new, but probably people will get used to it. But yeah, we're approaching the end, and I want to still ask you the last, let's say, one of the last deep questions. So there's the multiverse, the digital word. Let's elaborate on that. The last questions. So, what opportunities do you think multiverse has brought to marketing, and how could businesses use it?
Yeah.
Maybe you can take Printful as an example of how you envision it could use it.
So I think multiverse is the Marvel and Spider-Man concept.
Metaverse.
Yeah,
that's it. It's good that you pointed that out.
Yeah.
Metaverse.
But there are some similarities. Yeah. Well, Metaverse is still fresh, I guess, and this connection of digital and physical is still fresh, and I'm not sure that businesses have actually currently figured it out, but there are definitely great examples. I would start with one of the most popular ones, Fortnite, where there have been concerts in Fortnite where, but I don't know whether those people had to buy a ticket or not. So Lil Nas was performing in Fortnite where there was a huge figure of him. Then I know NFL has done cooperation with Fortnite. Gucci have done also collaboration with Roblox, where they built a museum or some kind of exhibition which you could enter through Roblox. Recently I saw Minecraft and Lacoste are doing a collaboration, and these collabs that you would never think could have happened 10 years ago, that some kids game and luxury brands are just working together. But how I see it with the Metaverse is definitely that if we think that physical is going digital, I think that also digital is then going back to physical. Some people, cool kids on the internet, call it phygital, that for instance, if you take NFTs as an example, that when people say that, hey, why would I buy an NFT if I can save it as an image and then I have it? But let's take that concept further. So it's just something in front of my eyes on an everyday basis that, all right, I have this NFT, but I want to show you as well that I have an NFT. So I save it as an image. And then, but obviously in collaboration with those, collection holders, and then how it connects to your POD, that for instance, I could get my NFT printed on my shirt. That one of the most popular ones and that I follow is NBA Top Shot, which is basically digital cards of moments in NBA games. That I want to express that I have this dunk from LeBron James from April 7 game, etc. And then I think it's great. It's a great opportunity for NFT collection holders to drop merch lines with that, and obviously the holders of NFTs are changing, and then you don't have to have the stock prior to that. And imagine a Minecraft world where you craft some kind of shirt to yourself, and hey, I want that same exact shirt in my everyday life, and that you just order it. It goes on with, I don't know, Sims 2K sports games and so on and so on. It's always about this physical, digital, and then back to physical. That's my take on that.
Oh, yeah, the future looks interesting.
Yeah, really
exciting.
Really colorful. Yeah.
Okay, so and the last question.
Sure.
What is your, let's say, either favorite, funniest, or best, let's say, memory moment from RBS when you were studying here?
All right. I guess overall the experience was quite fun, but I would mention, I guess, the mornings that I had at RBS, and all the pictures that I have were on the second floor in the student lounge where I was sleeping, because the mornings were hard for me, so I always appeared in the lecture that, hey, I'm here. I listened to it a bit, and then for a few minutes I went back to the student lounge to
power nap.
Power nap, exactly, so that I can proceed with my day. Like, that was one of the things.
Okay, great. So thank you, Roman, for joining us today, and
it's a pleasure.
Thank you guys for and the girls for watching. And yes, the next episode will be after 2 weeks, so the exact same, let's say, time. The exact same day of the week, Thursday. So until then, see you.